Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. This week's Parsha is out of Noach, the incident of the great deluge, the flood that reshaped and organized our very planet. And after the flood, it states that Noach left the ark as he was instructed by God. Even Noach mizbeach l'Hashem, and he built an altar unto God. He took from all the kosher animals and all the kosher birds, and he brought burnt offerings unto the Almighty. And God accepted these offerings, and God took an oath, never again will he bring such destruction upon our planet. And then it states a little bit further that Noach, a man of the earth, he began and he planted a vineyard. He drank from the vineyard, he became intoxicated, and he was abused by his son, Chum. Rashi says he began to plant the vineyard. What does it mean he began? He planted the vineyard. Rashi says that he denigrated himself by doing this, for he should have engaged in planting something else. What else should he have planted? What's wrong with planting a vineyard? He should have planted wheat. He should have planted a sregum. What exactly does Rashi mean? In addition, this is considered as though he denigrated himself. He disgraced himself. I mean, this is Noach we're talking about. If indeed he should have planted something else, what was he thinking? Why did he engage in planting a vineyard? And let's keep in mind, we're talking about Noach that God testifies at the beginning of the Parsha was an Ish Tzadik Tomim. He was a man who was perfectly righteous. He is the individual who was chosen that he should care for every living creature on the face of the earth, a minimum of 2 of each creature. To do so with his wife, his 3 sons and their wives, 8 people caring. It had to require the effort of superhuman ability of only someone who was so perfectly righteous. And we see that when he came off the ark, the first thing he did was build an altar unto God. And God lovingly accepted the offerings. Every human being that exists to this day that has ever existed owes their existence to Noach. Because of Noach, we're all alive today. How is it possible that Noach should make this mistake and he planted a vineyard, which we see that he's criticized for doing? King David says, Kais Yeshuais Esa Uveshem Hashem Ekra. A cup of salvation I shall lift, cup of wine, and the name of the God I shall call, and the name of God I shall declare. What exactly does King David mean by this? He's lifting a cup of wine. What is it, a toast? Here's a toast to our Creator, to Hashem? Well, what is that exactly? What does he mean by taking a cup of wine? We see that King David says elsewhere that Yayin Yisamach Levav Enosh, wine gladdens the heart of humanity, of man. Wine contains very special properties. When taken in moderation, it can be very therapeutic. It can have a calming effect on an individual. It could be salubrious, good for one's health. It can make a person more restful. Wine is a wonderful thing. We see that when we make Kiddush, we proclaim the sanctity of Shabbos and Yom Tov. We do so holding a cup of wine. We say, Boy Prial Geffen. When there's a wedding and we're going to have the sacred bond of matrimony between a bride and groom, we hold a cup of wine. We say the bracha Boy Prial Geffen, the Shavuot brachas, first bracha Boy Prial Geffen. These are the blessings over a cup of wine. What is it about wine? Wine is symbolic of all of the pleasures that God has prepared for man in our earthly existence. whether it be eating, drinking, sleeping, whatever it might be. Wine is the symbol. For wine, yes, you eat, you feel good, no question. I was hungry, and now look, I've eaten. What a blessing from God. I was thirsty, and now I've consumed, I drank some water or a beverage. My thirst has been quenched. I was fatigued and weary, I've rested, and now I've re-energized. And we recognize the blessings of God, and all of God's blessings, the pleasures of this world, are symbolized by the cup of wine. Take a little cup of wine and we sip it, and it automatically seems to improve our entire state of being. And this is what King David is saying, Kais Yeshua Sesa, the wine, the cup of wine, which symbolizes all the pleasures that God has prepared for man in this world, I dedicate them to my Creator, meaning I will not pursue them as an end unto themselves, but rather I give thanksgiving to my Creator. I express my gratitude that you have provided me with these pleasures to enable me to have the strength and the vigor to recognize my Creator and to serve Him. That's what King David means. I would like to suggest that I lift my cup of salvation as I declare and call the name of Hashem. This, I'd like to suggest, was the intention of Noach. Noach, first and foremost, he built an altar. He brought offerings to God. But now he also wants to give thanks. There are those who more than Noach should be obligated to give thanksgiving, express gratitude to God, saving me from the destruction of the entire earth. We must give thanks. And therefore, he wanted to do so by lifting a cup of wine representing all the material pleasures. God, I dedicate them unto you, that I will not engage in these pleasures for my own purposes and satisfaction, but rather as a means to serve you. And that was why Noach first engaged in planting a vineyard, so that he could have the wine by which he could express his gratitude to God. If so, then why is Noach criticized? There's a medrash in which it says that when Noach planted this vineyard, that the Satan came, and he symbolically took from the blood of a lamb, the blood of a lion, the blood of a monkey, and he put it in to the seeds of this vineyard. And therefore, when one drinks wine, if they have one cup, one sip, one swallow, they indeed feel calm. They feel comfortable. They feel at ease like the lamb. If they have a few more drinks, they feel bold and courageous and mighty and insurmountable like a lion. And a few more drinks, and they lose total control of themselves, in which they begin to act foolishly without any restrictions, without any parameters. They act like a foolish monkey. This is what the Satan placed within wine. And this is the impact that it can have on people today. Yes, drinking wine in moderation is a very nice thing. But to maintain that moderation, that's what takes enormous discipline. And not many of humanity are able to maintain that discipline. Put a few drinks into a person, and all of a sudden, who is this individual? How they talk, how they react. And people even say, well, let's loosen up. Let's have a drink. Let's loosen up. As if there's something that's tight and knotted that needs to be released. This is the actions of the Satan. The mistake that the Torah is referring to Noach is that, yes, Noach wanted to express his gratitude, but he should have engaged in a different planting, as Rashi says. Not this. Because even though your intentions could be 100% pure and holy, if we're going to seek out and utilize material benefits such as the drinking and consumption of wine, we are playing with fire. For indeed, I lift up my cup of wine unto God in gratitude, and if I have one drink, thank you, my Creator. But to maintain the proper discipline to limit ourselves to the one drink, that is where we are engaging with the Satan. That's where we find ourselves in the midst of the great struggle. And that was the mistake of Noach. If you want to express your true gratitude to God because you want this new world that you are about to create and lay the foundation for this new world, you want it to be based on gratitude. That's wonderful, but gratitude from earthly pleasures can be very dangerous. Who's to say that the earthly pleasures won't blind us until we lose sight of our Creator? What then should Noach have done? What should have been the planting? The sages tell us that when Yaakov was going down to Egypt, being brought there by his son Yosef, the viceroy. So it says before he came to Egypt, he sent Yehuda ahead of him. Why did he send Yehuda ahead of him? So that Yehuda could take care and see that there will be a place for Yaakov. Yehuda he has to send? Yosef was the viceroy. Yosef was the most powerful, influential, smartest human being in the entire Egyptian empire. All he needs to do is send message to Yosef, I'm coming and this is what I need. Don't you think Yosef is going to prepare lodging and a place for his father and his household? What is he sending Yehuda? Our sages tell us he sent Yehuda not to see that there would be a place to live, but to establish Torah education. That is the number one, first and foremost need to establish a proper environment in which Jewish people can live and thrive, in which we will be able to have a place to study Torah, a synagogue to pray, schools to educate our children and fill their hearts with the seeds and the knowledge and love of God, giving us the ability to attach ourselves unto our beautiful traditions and clinging to Hashem's divine word and fulfilling his mitzvahs. A home, a palace, no question, Yosef is taking care of that. But Yehuda, you know, from living with Yaakov all these years, or 22 years that Yosef has been away, you know the kind of Torah environment. You know that this is the foundation. This is how we plant a Jewish community. That's why he sent Yehuda. And that, our sages teach us, is what Noach should have done. Rather than plant vineyards, even for the proper holy intention of expressing gratitude to Hashem, first and foremost, we need to have the Torah environment. There needs to be Jewish education. There needs to be a kollel where the adults can study. There needs to be a place in which we can join together for prayer and spirituality. We need to be able to have that as our foundation. Then we have a Jewish community. Then we can build. Then we can plant, and we will be able to have the proper guidelines so that when we do have the cup of wine, we can be guaranteed that we will not exceed the boundaries of one sip and turn into the lion and the foolish monkey. That can only result when we have the seeds of Torah planted within us. There is so much to be learned from Noach, the flood, the Tower of Babel, this portion. But this indeed we must also learn. And that is our truest success and happiness is founded when we have that foundation of the true, proper Jewish community, where there is ability of Torah study and flourishing Torah knowledge. Our souls are fed. We're nourishing our neshamas, our souls. Then our bodies will be healthy as they consume the appropriate amount. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Stay safe and stay healthy and stay Jewish.